Hi everybody. I just wanted to talk a little bit about using Reaper to think about time and pitch and how they can be treated separately and how they can work together. And we'll kind of get onto this in a minute or two, but this is also my sort of love letter to Reaper, in that it does something that I really think is wonderful and kind of opens up a lot of possibilities for us. Okay, so I've just got loaded in here a kind of simple sustained sound. It's just me playing a wine glass, and we can see here that it's about 32 seconds long or 33 seconds long. Okay, it's a sustained pitch. I think it's sort of around an A, tuning wise. We'll get onto that in a little bit. So one of the things that we can do in Reaper is we can adjust the playback rate of an item, of a waveform. It's very simple to do. We just double click our item, we get the properties menu, and then over here we have this playback rate, right? And at the moment it's set to 1.000. Okay, now a playback rate of 1 is normal speed. Okay, now if we change this, a playback rate of 2 would be saying, okay, play this waveform, play this audio file twice as fast. Okay, so it's going to get quicker. And we can see that if I just type this in here, playback rate of 2.0, we'll hit apply. And now you'll see that actually what it's done is, because it's set to loop, it's made 2 copies in the same space of time because it's playing it twice as fast. Now, if we just want the 1 copy, I'll bring that back here. Sorry, you can see that just by the little loop markers. If I play it back now, okay, it's the same audio file but played twice as fast. Now if I come back here, in fact actually I will take off the looping just so that it doesn't do that again. If I go back, I can set it back to 1.0, and we get our full audio file once again. Okay, so it reaches the end here. Now going the other way, if we wanted to play, so that was a playback rate of 2.0 was saying play this twice as fast, make it faster. Now, if we say a playback rate of 0.5, that's saying, okay, play this at half speed. Okay, so play this twice as slowly, basically. So I hit apply now, and now if I change this, I drag, we see that the same audio file becomes just over a minute long, right? Let's have a quick listen to that. So it's maintained the same original pitch either way. When we went faster and when we went slower, the pitch has stayed the same. But we start to notice some interesting rhythmical things. Okay, so the kind of those the kind of dynamic fluctuation of the kind of loudness of the sound becomes much more pronounced when it's slower. Right? These they become kind of undulations. These kind of slow pulsations. Become really present when we slow it down, which is kind of interesting. Okay, let's go back to the original normal audio file. And like I was saying a minute ago, we've preserved the same pitch as we've changed it. Now that's Reaper's default, and if you wanted to change the pitch sort of separately, we can see that we can do that here as well. So I can adjust the pitch in semitones. So for instance, I could bump it up 7 semitones. So we've gone up a 5th, but now the timing has stayed the same as the original, right? So notice that it doesn't look any different than the original. Now, if you wanted to change the playback rate, the speed, and the pitch separately, you could do that. Okay, you could actually pull them in kind of opposite directions. So you could make it a slower speed, played at half speed, but you could also play it up an octave, up 12 semitones. Let's just try that quickly. Now, if you notice, there's lots of kind of unpleasant artifacts being produced. It sounds kind of weird, particularly in the higher frequencies. It sounds very, I mean, for want of a better term, it sounds very digital, right? We've got lots of noise kind of occurring here. And that's because in reality, playback rate and pitch are linked. They're related. And what we've done is we've kind of wrenched them apart and pulled them in opposite directions. And that presents a strain for the kind of audio processing, basically. Now, I'm not going to get too far technically into the kind of digital signal processing and how we play back digital files. But what I want to do is I want to kind of just kind of go back to the kind of old school version of doing this, right? Now, the reason that we've kind of been preserving our pitch when we've changed our speed is because of this little checkbox here, preserve pitch when changing rate. Now, that's Reaper trying to be clever. Well, it's Reaper being clever, but sometimes we don't want to be clever. We kind of want to open up new kind of possibilities by trying some older, clunkier methods. So if we uncheck this, let me first put this back to our original pitch and our original speed. So back, this should be, if I play this, this should be the original pitch, and it's the original 32 seconds long. There we go. Okay, so this is recorded as I played it and captured it. Okay, so that's the original pitch, the original speed. Now, I've unchecked preserve pitch when changing rate. So what that means is that now, if I change the speed of the audio file, if I change the playback rate, it's also going to change the pitch at the same time by a related kind of amount. Now, so before we played at this, now if I play twice as fast, watch what happens. So I've set the playback rate to 2.0, haven't changed the pitch adjust, hit apply, and now I'm playing back twice as fast as the original speed, and it's playing back 1 octave higher. Now, going the other way, playing back at half speed, you guessed it, it's playing back 1 octave lower than the original. We start to get some really lovely sounds emerging there. Okay, so I'm going to put it back to the original. Now, why is this happening? Why is it that when I change the speed, the pitch changes too? It's because as we kind of move through the waveform at a different rate, we are changing the frequency of that waveform. So if you were to imagine like a pure sine wave that's been recorded at a standard frequency of 440 hertz, right? So an A, concert A, and we played that waveform twice as fast, so with a playback rate of 2, then the frequency doubles. So we would move from our sine wave being tuned to 440 hertz, we double it so that it would become 880 hertz, which is an A, the octave above, right? So we've scaled, we've multiplied that frequency by changing the playback rate by setting it to 2, okay? Effectively, if you play it back faster, the pitch goes up. If you play it back slower, the pitch goes down. Fairly simple. Now, where I think this gets really interesting is that now we have a different way of tuning our sounds. Okay, so we no longer have to work in semitones. We can tune in terms of an interval ratio. We can tune by changing the playback rate. Now, a lot of other DAW softwares will kind of always try and just give you the kind of what it thinks is the simplest, what it thinks is the most musical, which is like, if you want to change the pitch, you could probably change it by semitones, maybe cents if you're getting really into it. You know, things like Ableton kind of gives you the option to change semitones and cents and nothing else. But now we have this, we have playback rate, and we know that we can change our speed and we can link it to pitch, and we can work with interval ratio relative to a kind of original pitch. Why do I think that's interesting? Well, I mean, the clue is right here, right? It's given me a whole bunch of decimal places. I can get really specific with my playback rate. I can get really specific with my tuning kind of interval. So let's take our original sample. Now let's set it to 1.5. Okay, what happens there? Now we've got a bit faster and the pitch has gone up a little bit. We could also express 1.5 as 3/2, right? That's in just intonation, that's a perfect fifth, okay? And we can start to get really into kind of the specifics of these things. So let me just pull up a calculator, because all good composing begins and ends with calculators. So just to kind of show you that the just interval ratio is 3/2, 3 divided by 2, which gives us 1.5. Okay, so that's what I just tuned this interval to there, 1.5. So in fact, let me make a copy of this, and now we can listen to it next to our original. So if I take that back to 1.0, that'll let us hear the interval a bit better. I'll turn this down. I also really like this because we've changed the speed as well. It means that we've kind of knocked them out of kind of rhythmic phase with each other, so that you don't end up with the same kind of pulsation. You end up with a bit of variance there. It kind of makes the interplay kind of feel a bit more musical, right? It feels like there's people playing these instruments. Okay, so I tuned this to a just intoned perfect fifth, right? 3/2, a playback rate of 1.5. Now, if you are watching this and thinking, oh my God, Oliver, what the hell are you talking about? Why have you started talking in decimal places? I have some terrible news. It's about to get a lot worse, because we can go really specific, okay? We can get really into our intonation now and tuning and kind of, repitching our audio files. And to do that, I'm going to go back to my calculator. Now, so most of Western classical music, or in fact most of Western music, is tuned in kind of 12-tone equal temperament, or 12 EDO, equal divisions of the octave, right? So that is where we have the space of an octave equally divided up into 12 steps, right? The chromatic scale. And how do we calculate that? Well, okay, things are about to get worse because I need to go into scientific calculator mode. So we calculate 12-tone equal temperament by dividing the octave into 12 degrees, into 12 steps, and they're equally spaced steps. And so to work out like 1 degree of 12-tone equal temperament, so to you and I, basically how to work out 1 semitone, we make this calculation. So that's 2 to the power of 1 divided by 12, 1/12. I'll close my bracket. Okay. So we get this sum. And oh my God, there's a lot of decimal places. 1.059463. Right. Now, what does that mean? Have I lost my mind? Possibly. But this number here is one semitone in traditional 12-tone equal temperament, okay? So if I take this number, and I'm just going to take it to this number of number of decimal places, bob it in here, hit apply, and all being well, this file here is going to be one semitone higher than this one. Whoa. Well, that's spooky, but mathematically interesting, right? We have a semitone. Let's get a slightly less ominous interval. Let's work out a major third, right? So that's going to be 4 semitones. So I'm going to do the same calculation, but I'm just going to replace the 1 degree, 1 semitone, with 4 semitones. So I'm going to do 2 to the power of 4 over 12 is this number. Okay, let's take this. Let's bob this back into Reaper as our interval. And remember, this is always the playback rate. This is changing the speed relative to the original, okay? Oh, much nicer. Lovely bit of major third tuning there. Now, just because it's fun to take things to extremes, because we're tuning with real precision here, right? Because we're getting really into tuning to like however many decimal places, we can start to explore other kind of tuning systems, right? So for instance, if you took the octave, right, and divided it into 12, that's our regular equal tempered tuning system. That's what you see when you look at a keyboard. What if we doubled it up, right? So what if instead of having 12 notes per octave, 12 chromatic notes per octave, what if we had 24 chromatic notes per octave? And that's easy because in the same equal tempered sum here, we're just going to change this 12 to 24. So let's work out 1 degree of this 24 tone equal tempered scale. So this would be a kind of quarter tone rather than a semitone, right? So we're going to clear this. I'm going to go 2 to the power of 1 over 24 this time, because we're going to have 24 steps per octave. Let's see what that is. That's this. And let's tune this. So this should be what is commonly thought of as a quarter tone, higher than the original. I'm going to turn the original down a bit more just so you can... Ooh. That's interesting. There's, you know, you can start to play around here by generating kind of interesting new harmonies, but you don't have to go crazy into equal temperament theory if you don't want to. There are plenty of other tuning systems. Another one that you'll kind of come across at some point is just intonation, where we tune to kind of low integer ratios. So the 3/2, that tuning ratio of 1.5, that was a just intonation perfect fifth. We could try another one. It's much simpler. We don't need the scientific calculator anymore. We can pop back here. We could just say let's say a just major third, actually. So in fact, I'll tell you what, let's go back and take my equally tempered major third. Was this one. Just check. Right, and let's make another copy. And this is going to be a just major third. We're going to calculate that as 5/4. Much simpler number. Let's listen to this. Okay, so I'll mute the... Actually, no, let's listen to them together. So this is these two are the regular 12-tone equal temperament. So this is how your keyboard, your piano would be tuned. And then I'm going to bring in the just intoned major third instead. Only a tiny bit different if you listen to them together. That's a bit too loud. We end up with some interesting kind of harmonic relationships in that interval. It's a tiny, tiny interval, but it can yield kind of, quite interesting results when you build a whole harmonic system out of this. This is quite a simple ratio, but you could start to, explore other tuning intervals, tuning to them. Now, I've taken things to extremes, I guess, by kind of showing you this in the context of a wine glass. Alternate tuning systems are a pretty big cliff to jump off at this point, so I don't really want to get any further into tuning systems and how and why you might do it. There's plenty of other stuff to read up on over there. But I would just say, like, you don't need a tuning system. I've just shown you these because it's something that we can do, right? We can make these really, really careful, really precise calculations to get our exact tuning systems dialed in. But you could also just follow your ears, right? You could play around just by, like, moving these numbers, figuring something, finding something that is maybe more intuitive, and kind of following that, right? See where your ears take you. So don't feel like you have to get into really precise, like, calculations and kind of that process. It's available to you. It's something that the technology allows us to do with relative ease. But you don't have to work like that. It's just a possibility. To be honest, if you're the kind of person that is into alternate tuning systems, no amount of my saying, "Hey, just take it easy," is gonna change that. You've probably already kind of drunk the Kool-Aid, so good luck. But yeah, I just wanted to show you it's a possibility. It's something we can think about, and the thing that you'll kind of hopefully have noticed is that when we change the playback rate and pitch together, because that's kind of the way that kind of the audio file wants to be played, we can make some fairly severe or fairly extreme adjustments, and we don't get those same artifacts emerging as happened when we kind of pulled the playback rate in one direction and the pitch in another direction. It started to sound a bit really. But this doesn't happen so much. We can kind of be a bit more extreme when we link pitch and speed together. So yeah, I hope that's given you something to think about and something to explore and something to work with. Enjoy.